but you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
Because you just can't close your mouth. You just can't be sane, even when you do open your mouth. I think this girl does not deserve a feature-length film, but rather, she deserves to be in a padded cell.
People have real problems, and no one gives a shit if she got paid for 17 instead of 18 on her multi-million-dollar salary, which is not calculated by the hour.
Rachel Zegler never imagined it would come to this. Just a year ago, she was poised to become Disney's next crown jewel, the face of a reimagined classic, a breakout star with the studio's full weight behind her.
For Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler and a wonderful queen, because there's another one in town.
But now, the silence is deafening. Despite numerous efforts to reach out, to apologize, to make things right, Zegler's calls have reportedly gone unanswered. According to multiple sources, her agents, her publicist, even mutual friends within the Disney machine have attempted to re-establish contact with the studio's top brass and have been met with nothing but polite deferrals and an increasingly familiar phrase, "We'll circle back," but no one ever does.
You see how young these women are. You know, like this woman, Rachel Zegler, she looks about 12 years old in that clip, who plays the new Snow White.
It's as if the phone lines have gone dead. And for Zegler, who once dreamed of donning the Snow White crown for Disneyland parades and Broadway specials, the sudden chill isn't just a corporate brush-off. It feels personal. Insiders say the trouble didn't begin with the film's release. It began with the rollout. As soon as early trailers surfaced and interview clips began circulating, public opinion shifted. Instead of celebrating the bold new direction for Snow White, social media erupted with criticism.
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Viewers didn't just disagree with Zegler's modern interpretation, they felt she was tearing down a legacy. One particular comment about the original Prince being a random guy who stalks her became a viral flashpoint, spawning parodies, think pieces, and eventually a wave of boycott calls.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
Zegler's public image, once vibrant, cheeky, and confident, was suddenly reframed as condescending, divisive, and ungrateful. Behind the scenes, sources claimed Zegler recognized the damage quickly and attempted to pivot. But by the time opening weekend rolled around and box office numbers fell far short of projections, the internal consensus at Disney was already shifting. No more unscripted interviews, no redemptive press appearances, no carefully managed comeback arc, just silence.
You know, I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film.
The studio reportedly concluded that the safest option was to starve the fire of oxygen, and that meant cutting off the very person at the heart of it. For Zegler, who allegedly drafted heartfelt letters offering to donate her salary, record educational specials, or speak to classic film historians in an effort to show humility, the lack of response wasn't just disappointing, it was devastating.
But imagine you spend $250 million and you get some young girl and you don't kind of talk to her about like, hey, you know, don't get political, you're young.
Friends close to Zegler say she spiraled into disbelief when weeks passed without any meaningful acknowledgement from Disney. She had poured her energy into that letter. 3 pages outlining ideas to rebuild trust, from visiting children's hospitals in character to hosting moderated roundtables about evolving fairy tales. She didn't want more attention. She wanted redemption. A junior executive replied with a brief, "Thanks for your thoughts, we'll be in touch." But they never were. According to someone familiar with her team's efforts, Zegler's publicist even tried confronting a senior Disney figure at an industry gala, only to be met with a cold shrug and the words, "We can't survive another headline, good or bad."
It's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
That response, when relayed back to Zegler, allegedly sent her into what one confidant described as a breakdown she's still struggling to recover from. What hurts the most, those closest to her say, isn't the professional freeze. It's the silence from a studio that once promised her the world. Disney had hailed her casting as a landmark moment, a young Latina actress stepping into the most iconic fairy tale role in American film history. They'd rallied behind her during initial backlash and had assured her that their vision was to modernize not just the story, but the archetype itself. Now, those same people had vanished. No one would say it out loud, but the message was clear. She had become too toxic to touch. The ripple effects have been brutal. Casting directors began quietly pulling her from shortlists. Studio heads stopped replying to pitches that included her name. Even commercial partnerships started to evaporate. One luxury brand that had expressed interest in a global ambassador deal reportedly backed out without explanation.
It's somehow they're mutually exclusive, by the way. You've got to get rid of the love storyline and focus more on how she wants to be CEO of IBM. I mean, like, what's Snow White's plan? She's Snow White. She's like a princess. Okay, whatever. What are the dwarfs now? Are they like little helpers who are going to help her get like her Harvard education, her PhD at Harvard while she works out her Mensa IQ?
And behind it all, the media cycle never stopped. Every new TikTok joke about the film, every snarky meme about Zegler's feminist Snow White pushed her further from the redemption arc she was desperate to write. Some in the industry call it unfair. Others say it's Hollywood's oldest story. A young woman given the keys to the kingdom, only to watch it all disappear the moment she became inconvenient. Whether Disney's strategy of silence will work remains to be seen. But for Zegler, the silence is no longer just a PR tactic. It's a wall she's not sure she can climb, and yet silence hasn't meant peace. Behind the curtain, tensions have escalated in ways that few expected. According to two separate insiders, Zegler's legal team drafted a tentative defamation complaint aimed at her Snow White co-star, Gal Gadot. While no formal action has been taken, the mere existence of the document raised eyebrows across the industry. Rumors suggest that Zegler believes Gadot may have made private remarks, allegedly describing her as chaotic, immature, and difficult to direct, that later trickled into boardroom discussions, further souring Disney leadership on her potential.
I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love Snow White.
Gadot's representatives have strongly denied the claims, calling them unsubstantiated gossip. But the rift between the two actresses appears real. Disney's lawyers, fully aware of the PR catastrophe a public spat between two leads could unleash, reportedly intervened. Both camps were warned that any escalation might result in subpoenaed internal communications, including sensitive emails between executives, producers, and marketing teams. No one wanted that. The threat of discovery alone was enough to shut down any legal maneuvering, for now, but sources familiar with the matter say the tension lingers, and the studio has since taken deliberate steps to distance itself from both actresses. That chilling effect has rippled throughout the Snow White production. Team members, once excited to showcase their work in featurettes and behind-the-scenes interviews, have been instructed to avoid discussing the film altogether. A source on the post-production team said that multiple PR tie-ins were quietly shelved, including a Disney Plus making-of special and a planned awards season push for costume and visual effects categories. The decision, according to someone close to the board's crisis response team, was simple. Any visibility risks reopening wounds. Meanwhile, with Snow White's box office numbers falling short and merchandise sales plummeting, the studio's leadership has been forced into a new kind of triage.
These big bad feminists now are telling us that's ridiculous. How dare you want to meet a handsome prince and be swept off of your feet and live happily ever after? No, you should want to be the prince. You should want to go out and fight the bad guys with a sword.
Executives are now focused not on promoting the film, but on minimizing its cultural footprint. The goal isn't to revive Snow White, it's to bury it. And Zegler, whose voice once led the charge for a modernized fairy tale, now finds herself caught in the fallout of a strategy built on silence, avoidance, and quiet retreat. The financial damage hasn't just dented the film's balance sheet, it sent tremors through Disney's entire ecosystem. Toy retailers, once eager to stock shelves with revamped Snow White dolls and dress-up kits, began slashing orders within days of the film's disappointing debut. One major department store reportedly sent back entire pallets after sentiment analysis showed parents were hesitant to buy the merchandise. A fast food chain that had planned a themed kids' meal abruptly pivoted, replacing Zegler's likeness with Encanto characters from a previous year's campaign. Even theme park operations felt the impact. What was meant to be a dazzling new parade float featuring Snow White was quietly pulled from development and replaced with a generic Princesses of the Forest concept that omitted any specific character tie-in. Internally, the frustration is palpable. Animators who spent months perfecting delicate forest creatures and enchanted scenery now find their work overshadowed by headlines.
What is this process now where it's like in order to be inclusive, you have to completely destroy storylines, completely destroy franchises? I don't believe in that. I don't think that consumers believe in that either.
Costume designers who labored over hand-stitched, gemstone-laced gowns watch them vanish from promotional materials. One crew member compared it to painting a masterpiece and then watching someone throw a sheet over it. Some members of the creative team sympathize with Zegler, admitting she was thrust into an impossible situation without sufficient guidance or a clear tone to follow. Others remain bitter, arguing that her interviews alienated the very audience they were working so hard to enchant. But the impact goes beyond one film. The fallout has triggered an introspective shift within the studio. Scripts that were once praised for bold reimaginings are now being reassessed for messaging overload. Creative executives who used to greenlight edgy updates with confidence are suddenly being asked to present legacy characters as is. One producer described the current atmosphere as cautious to the point of paranoid, with even internal pitches facing new scrutiny from finance and brand integrity departments. There's a growing sense that the company wants to quietly reverse course, but doing so without admitting fault. And in that recalibration, Rachel Zegler's name has become a cautionary whisper. Not because she failed in her role, but because she became the flashpoint for everything the studio now wants to forget. The story they were once proud to tell now sits in limbo, a lesson, a liability, and, at least for now, a locked vault. For Zegler, the consequences stretch far beyond a single role. While her team works tirelessly behind the scenes to pivot her career toward indie prestige projects and potential Broadway revivals, many decision-makers are still hesitant.
TV Magazine wrote on X, when you compare how Rachel Zegler spoke about Snow White to how other actresses who played live-action Disney princesses spoke about their character, really underlines just how poorly she carried herself.
One casting director, speaking anonymously, revealed that major studios are now running internal reputation risk checks before signing talent, and that Zegler's name routinely triggers elevated insurance premiums. In practice, this means producers have to pay more to secure financing, talent bonds, or even distribution deals when her name is attached. It's not a formal blacklist, but in a town where money moves faster than morality, reputational cost often outweighs artistic potential, and that potential was once undeniable. Zegler had the pipes, the presence, the classic star quality Disney seemed to crave, and for a moment, it looked like she was destined to follow in the footsteps of Anne Hathaway or Emma Watson. But in an era where press clips are algorithmically recycled, every sentence matters. One poorly timed comment, one off-script answer, and the internet doesn't just remember, it weaponizes. The cycle becomes self-perpetuating. The more Zegler is mentioned, the more negativity the algorithm drags to the surface, forcing executives to stay quiet, agents to tread lightly, and producers to look elsewhere. Yet those close to Zegler insist she's not ready to give up. Friends say she still dreams of donning the costume once more, not for a sequel, but for the original promise, to bring joy, inspire kids, and breathe new life into a fairy tale she genuinely loved. They describe her as hurt, yes, but also resilient. Her team has reportedly pitched a limited series to a major streamer, loosely inspired by her own experience in the spotlight, reframed as satire. Whether it will get picked up remains uncertain, but the move signals one thing clearly. She's willing to confront the narrative, even if the industry isn't. Meanwhile, Disney continues to avoid any public reference to her name. Internal emails leak now and then, revealing that even neutral phrases like Snow White star are being scrubbed from press materials. It's not a punishment per se. It's something colder, a full erasure. The emotional toll of that erasure is something no PR team can fully manage. Zegler has reportedly begun taking digital detox weekends, switching off her devices to escape the constant buzz of online commentary. Friends say she's working with a therapist, journaling, and trying to center herself in ways that don't involve career milestones or industry noise. But the silence from Disney continues to gnaw at her. She once told an interviewer that the greatest honor of being Snow White wasn't the fame or the premiere carpet. It was the idea that she'd one day surprise a Make-A-Wish child, dressed in the gown, and see their face light up. That dream now feels out of reach. Each day she's left waiting for the phone to ring, it becomes clearer. Disney has moved on. The brand that once celebrated her casting as a bold leap forward now refuses to acknowledge her at all. Executives hope that if they say nothing, if they let the film fade into the algorithm, the controversy will evaporate along with it. But stories don't disappear. They linger. They resurface. And whether Disney is ready or not, the world is still watching to see how this one ends. Behind closed doors, some at the studio are said to be uneasy with the freeze-out. Younger staffers, in particular, question the ethics of ghosting an actress who expressed regret, offered apologies, and actively sought ways to make things right. They argue that redemption is a Disney theme itself, that the company's most beloved characters found their way not by silence, but by courage, forgiveness, and second chances. But for now, those voices are drowned out by risk assessments and brand management memos. Industry veterans know how quickly the narrative can turn. One breakout role, one critical darling at Sundance, one teary-eyed acceptance speech at a smaller awards ceremony, and suddenly the tide shifts. The public loves a comeback. But for that to happen, someone has to offer the stage. And until that moment arrives, Rachel Zegler remains in limbo, a lead actress with no finale, a princess without a kingdom, and a cautionary tale still waiting to be rewritten. Do you think Disney is right to freeze Rachel Zegler out, or has the studio taken silence too far? Should she be given a second chance to reconnect with fans, or has the window already closed? Let us know what you think in the comments. Hit the like button if you appreciate these deep dive Hollywood breakdowns, and don't forget to subscribe. Stick around, the next video on your screen just might change the way you see Disney's future.